All the films are highlights at the festival, but what are a couple not to miss screenings or retrospects that the 13th edition of the fest will present?
Wow. I mean, it's just there's a film that I have been preaching about ever since I saw it at Sundance. It was the first or second, like the second screening I saw at Sundance this year. It's a movie called Broken English. And it's this film that it's a documentary about the life and legacy of Marianne Faithfull. And keyword there is legacy. Because it's not just a traditional music biopic that's, beginning of the career to the end where they are now kind of thing. It actually takes a very unique approach to the documentary uh, structure, basically, by having actors like Tilda Swinton and George McKay be a part of this organization that is dedicated to making sure that people don't forget as opposed to remembering Marianne Faithfull. And you have Marianne Faithfull on camera being interviewed, but you also have different luminaries from the era and people who talk about her history and what her music and her performances, how important they were, especially to the feminist movement over the years. You have feminist artists and icons debate and talk about where her legacy has been screwed over the years, and on top of that, you get performances by people like Nick Cave and Courtney Love,
Wow.
performing her music. And I mean, this thing really just struck me because I'm just so used to seeing just traditional music just biopics, docs in general. And this one, the structure worked in a way that was informative. I knew, tidbits about her career, and
Right.
this one was a real eye opener. So that's one that's part of our closing night. It's a really kind of great opening act to our closing night film. So I really hope people will check that one out.
All right.
Yeah.
So
Uh,
basically, what is the selection process for the films at the Chicago Critics Film Festival, and how has it evolved since the beginning and beyond?
it always starts with movies we like. It always just starts there. So there's no real process like we're going after this, going after this.
Right.
We go see a movie, we like it, and we go, hey, I like it. You should check this out because I'm putting it into the pile.
Okay.
Basically, put it on the list of films to consider. And then we get enough interest, we get enough people with eyes on it that all appreciate it, and then we go like, okay, that's basically now we're going to invite that and hope it comes through. So it kind of starts there. The first year was, I mean, it was all movies we liked and whatnot, but we were scrambling to piece something together for a weekend in like 3 months, and it was just kind of
Right.
like let's shoot our shot here, shoot our shot here, see what will come through, and then miraculously we were able to package together a weekend worth of movies. But that's how it basically started. Like, and now over the years, because we've had more distributors and studios deal with us on a regular basis, but also individuals and people submit movies to our festival, festivals that we don't get to and see certain movies. Those Some of those people who attach to those festivals reach out to us and say like, "Hey, would you consider these films that we're offering at Cannes or Venice or Berlin or something like that?" And so we look at all of those movies too, and then it just gets back to the simplicity of it. Do we
Right.
like it? And how many of us like it? And these are the movies that then we try to package together something coherent for the whole week.
Is there any time that you get down to it and then there's a conflict as to that last slot or something?
This year, probably more than ever,
Hmm.
there were conflicts over what was available to us. Sometimes there are movies that we really want, but we can only wait so long to get a yes
Right.
for. So
Right.
some of those movies just happen to fall off just because of that.
Hmm.
They're very rare. I can't recall ever a period where we got down to like the last couple slots and we had like arguments over what we're gonna fill that. Sometimes it comes down to like three or four movies, and we just kind of go like, okay, rank these movies. What do you what where would you how would you
Yeah.
choose to invite these movies?
Yeah.
And there's just kind of like a majority rules in a
Sure.
way
Sure.
when we get down to it.
All right.
Yeah. That's basically what it goes. Yeah, we've never like felt like we got to the end of a rope and said like we have to disappoint someone who is expecting to play us.
Cool.
But there was a great handful of movies this year that very easily could have made the cut, and for one reason or another, it just didn't work out.
Interesting. So, what is personally exciting to you once the festival begins? Either an audience reaction to the films or the atmosphere of the film rep appearances and or the music box theater itself.
I love the atmosphere of it. I hope, I personally hope that people have a great response to the movie. I love just walking. I sit through a couple of the movies during the fest, but I just like walking through that lobby, especially when there's like a comedy playing. I love hearing the collective laughter of that house when it's full, which we're going to have on opening night and a few times this festival. Just hearing that and being able to hear it out in the lobby, like even further
Sure.
out by like the concession stand, to hear people really responding to it. And every once in a while, I know there's a shock coming in a certain movie or something, and I like to peek in and just to see how people are responding to it. That's always the greatest thrill during the week. Seeing the lines, getting people in, seeing that long line at the concession stand,
Yeah.
everyone waiting for the popcorn, and then getting the thing started and seeing people just, conversing and excited about what they're seeing, and then they come out, and then we just hope that they like the movie, and generally, most of the time, they do. We get a
Yeah.
lot of
Yeah.
kind of like people just come up to us personally going, "Thank you for playing that," or "That was great. I'm really glad I saw that." Especially when they're surprised by something that they
Sure.
like have
Sure.
maybe just kind of walked into and like, "Oh, I'm here. I'll go see this," and then they really respond to it. That's one of the joys for me.
The relevant nature and influence of film critics, like everything else in the digital age, has declined in significance. What is important about film criticism now, in your perspective, and in the context of the film festival?
I've always looked at there's two things about film criticism that I've always looked at as being important. One is the honesty of it, that coming from an honest place, that you're not being influenced by outside forces, that your opinion is your own, and you're doing it
That's true.
because you have a personal, not just a personal connection to it, but because you have an understanding of film itself and film history, and that you're not just kowtowing to be a positive on the Rotten Tomatoes scale or to appease someone at the studio. That I mean I think that because we're in this era now where you hear the term influencer a lot, and you see that leaking into our press screenings and things like that.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there are some people there that have genuine opinions. But more often than not, when you see like 3 4 minute snippets, I mean, Siskel and Ebert, they had 3 5 minute segments on their show to talk about a movie. But even in those 3 to 5 minutes, you felt that there was real conversation. There was real, the joy was genuine, the dissent was genuine. And when you just do that for a couple minutes, and I don't know, be wacky about it and do a lot of special effects behind you, stuff like that. You sometimes wonder, like, is this for you or is this for the movie?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that, and plus, and Siskel and Ebert also wrote reviews too. So there's a lot of different ways to do film criticism. But I think that it's important to stay true to the films themselves, more than be true to any other master associated with what you're supposed to be doing, where the word criticism comes in. You're not here to attack, you're here to absorb and discuss and explain your personal opinion of why you think a film doesn't work or does work, what is special and unique about it. And I would like to see more people engaging with that aspect of it than just like, hey, we reviewed stuff, all
Yeah.
this week
Yeah.
and kind of thing.
What film or moment in your life was the demarcation point between film as entertainment and film as significant study and basis for analysis?
Like the top of the answer that I'm going to give you is I can't say that's the moment where I knew I was going to be a film critic per se,
Hmm.
but I know it's the moment where I knew film was more than just, something to pass the time, that it was just,
Right.
or entertainment kind of thing. And it was when I was 7 years old, and
Oh,
I saw E.T.
wow.
And when I saw E.T., and at the end of that movie, crying my eyes out. And I'm like, and I knew, because one of the things that I was taught when I was that young is that film is not real, right? That, because I saw Alien at probably a much too young age, and that scared the absolute hell out of me. And so I was taken aside and said, this is not real. Aliens don't exist. Robots don't exist. You're going to be fine, right? So I knew that there was a fakery to what it was, that ET was not a real thing, that was not going to, as far as we know, was not going to come into my backyard. So why was I crying at the end of this movie? Like, and I realized, and I went from laughing and being scared, and just every major emotion came out of me during that. So that was when I started paying attention to certain things. I was still a kid. I was still into it to an entertainment factor. But like the next year when I saw The Right Stuff, my dad took me to
Right,
see that, a
right, right.
3 hour movie with, a real life story about astronauts. And, probably didn't understand every nuance of it, but I knew that that was a greater experience than I was used to at that age. And it put me on the path that led me to recognizing, because I don't know if there's like, besides that there's like one specific moment, because you start sampling other things. You start sampling foreign films and more animated films and classic films and things like that. And it all just kind of starts swirling around, and you start recognizing, well, why this works or why this
Right,
doesn't work
right,
and stuff like that.
right, right, right.
Um, yeah, but I mean, that's always the demarcation point that I always look
That's
to.
that's great. That's great, man. This final question: what distresses you more, given the critical backlash of the recent release Michael versus its box office popularity? A film that you think is terrible for culture but does boffo box office, or a
Mhm.
film that you love that can't get any admission dollars, and why?
Well, I mean, as I've gotten older, I've learned to put aside the, oh, geez, people are seeing the wrong movie kind of thing. I mean, critics, throw away the word critic for a second. We're all people. We're all in it to be entertained or informed or whatever it might be, seeing a movie. We want all of that to happen. So, when people like something, I say, fine, you great. I'm glad you liked it. I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
But then if they come at me and say like, well, no, this is why you're wrong. Well, now we have an argument,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, I'm glad you liked it. I didn't like it. Those are our opinions, and we can go our separate ways. The stuff with Michael, you know, there was always going to be that divide. I saw that divide when Michael Jackson died,
Right,
and it was
right.
right because of that concert film that he had made was on the verge of coming out, and so there's been the controversy has gone on for decades. But I really remember seeing the how rabid the fandom was, at that period. So I knew that this was coming. What was has been disconcerting over the last week is to see people who should know better make a case out of why this is quote unquote bad for critics. That is some bad faith bullshit, as far as I'm concerned. When you see
What do you mean bad for critics?
there have been articles that have come out, and I hate to even give them even kind of credence, but there have been articles that have come out like why this is bad for critics, why
Hmm.
this is a loss for critics. And I did some research after this came out, and you could look at like about 40% of like over like the last 3 years, including this year, 40% of movies that have made over $100 million in the box office, the divide, as you might call it, between the critic score on Rotten Tomatoes, the tomato meter, and their popcorn meter for the audience score, the divide is less than 10%
Hmm.
either which way.
Hmm.
So the argument that Michael, which is one of many movies that there's been a critical divide for, with between big box office, low box office, whatever it might be,
Right.
for major outlets, again, people who should know better, to make that argument that somehow critics blew this, as if coverage of the movie was somehow related to how well we think it was going to do. like we were trying to stop that in some way. No critic looks at a movie and go like, "Well, I'm gonna make my point so hard that people are not gonna go see this movie." That critics don't do that. They don't. They would much rather them see a movie like Blue Heron than Michael, for example. But they know that that game is lost. That's not a game that critics play.
This is Patrick McDonald for HollywoodChicago.com. Copyright 2026.